Breakfast. We are keeping track with the election in the United States of America. Of course, it's a keenly contested one between Donald Trump of the Republican Party and Kamala Harris of the Democratic Party. Well, the election is underway. Results are coming in from across the country, including swing states like Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Some projections are showing Mr. Trump in the lead. Whichever way the election goes, Africa would be at the receiving end of policy changes that could impact the continent's economy. And that's the direction we want to take right now, what this election will bring or what it will mean for Africa. We could also narrow it down to the Nigerian nation. Joining us to discuss this is public affairs analyst. Of course, we will hope to bring in Biodun Showumi during the course of this conversation. But presently, we have Mustafa Ewinla with us in the studio. And we thank you very much for joining us on the program. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Also, Oludare Maridoti is here. He's US-based global affairs analyst. Good to see you again, Dr. Dare. Welcome also.
Thank you, Veronica. Thanks, everybody.
All right, let's begin with you, Dr. Maridoti. So, first of all, let us know your voting experience, and now with the way things stand now, what's it looking like for you?
Well, it was a very peaceful day. You know, they had a protracted pre-election day voting, so a lot of people were out today. A lot of people, about 50% of the population, had even voted before today, and you know, everybody had thought that maybe because there was a ruling that what's it called, outlawed abortion in a few states, that would be a driving force for the election in favor of the of Vice President Kamala Harris. However, there were some headwinds that she had to run against, which was essentially the economy. And it's just thinking about it from the perspective of the economy, it reminds me of the situation in Nigeria, whereby the fundamentals of the economy are looking good, but how do you tell that to an average Nigerian on the streets that the economy is on the right track, right? Because what they know is what they want to buy. In America, the inflation has come down, and interest rates, they started cutting it, and things are on the right track. As a matter of fact, of all the developed countries, America had survived the shock of COVID, because we have to understand inflation is, there were fewer goods because people shut down production during COVID in places like China over a year. And so fewer goods and money chasing it. So the price of the goods went up, and they had to increase the interest rate. Now, increasing interest rate means that everything you pay for, the prices will go up. And so those things were the economic fundamentals that Kamala Harris had to run against. Now, another perspective from the point of the election is also the fact that President Biden chose to run for a re-election, even though most people had expected him not to. And after a disastrous debate in June, he then pulled out subsequently and let the vice president run. So she had like about 100 days to run a race that Donald Trump had been running since 2022. So it was a lot of headwinds, and the direction that the election is looking right now is more like the wind is blowing in the direction of Donald Trump. The the votes have not yet been fully counted. But I just think it's going to be another chaotic period for the world, especially when you look at the point of view of the former president, probably maybe the next president-elect. And, well, it's going to be exciting, but I think it's going to be chaotic and scary. There's a lot of anxiety, definitely, in the country right now because of a lot of things that he has said and the impact that it's going to have. And some of his policies, in my own opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of economists, seem like it's going to bring back inflation because, like the guest that you brought on the last time said, Trump said he was going to put tariff on everything that Americans consume. So if you put tariff on it, what will happen? People will start paying more. When they start paying more, inflation goes up. So the economic fundamentals that have been trending in the positive direction will be most likely disrupted. If we talk about the things that's going on in the world, Europe. Trump wants to pull out of NATO. I mean, we don't even understand the implications that will have and the peace that that organization has kept in the world for a very long time. So, I mean, I think it's an exciting, very anxious period for the country, and we'll see how the next 4 years goes if he eventually wins. Kamala Harris still has a slim shot, but we don't know how the votes that are yet to be counted will come out, if it will favor her heavily enough to overturn the lead that Trump has. She just needs to win 3 states, which they call the blue of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. There are still votes being counted in strongly democratic regions, but if those votes don't come maybe like 90% in her favor, she might not be able to catch up the gap that Trump already has, and that might mean Trump has won, the White House again. So, well.
All right, and we have. All right, Dr. Marindoti, we'll put you on hold now. We also have joining us in the studio to speak some more about the implications of the U.S. elections for the African continent and, especially for Nigeria. Biodun Showumi is also here with us. You're very much welcome.
Good morning.
And, well, the figures are, from what we are seeing now, I'm quoting the BBC right now, Kamala Harris, 194, Donald Trump, 246. There's also this latest breaking news saying that Trump must win Pennsylvania as he stands on the edge of election victory. Gentlemen, let's begin with you now, Mr. Showumi. So looking at, these figures that we are seeing, what is it looking like for you? If a Trump presidency right now, what would it mean for you? Because Dr. Marindoti there said, it's a very anxious period for America. Do you share that anxiety, especially if Trump is declared winner?
Yes, it's actually a very tense period, not only for America. Whatever happens within America is their own internal affairs, but it has ramifications for other parts of the world, particularly Africa. We know that Africa is a continent, being courted, by the major powers, and there had been attempts to turn parts of the continent, particularly the Sahel region and some part of Congo, into battleground for influence. Despite that, we've also seen efforts being made to re-engage with Africa, unlike what was done before. I can give you a very good example. The share of Africa's trade with the rest of the world, but in the 70s was 5%. Today is about 2.3%. So very dismal thing. It's as if our share of global trade has actually declined. What you see going on in America is also happening in Nigeria and other African countries. You see the fact that many people are moving towards or voting towards a period of uncertainty, unpredictability, which Trump actually represents, because that is who he is. He can act, extempore. He acts the way he thinks and deem fit. He has little regard for the African continent, particularly. He was in power for 4 years. He was never at one time in Africa. Whereas Joe Biden might not have visited Africa, but Kamala Harris, visited 3 countries, if I remember clearly, Sudan, Tanzania, and Ghana, and tried to engage, with Africa. So, but for us, our main major concern is the impact of an erratic presidential or policy initiatives coming from America.
Under Trump?
Yes, under Trump. You are likely going to see that. What they've done currently with the AGWA, you'll understand what I'm saying now. The AGWA is the Africa Growth Opportunities Act. What they've done with that is they have tried to ensure that we're able to export goods with a view to increase Africa's share of global trade, following globalization, to about 3% or more. We are yet to get there. But you will see the impact of it. The moment Ethiopia fell out with the Americans on policy issues, they decided to throw Ethiopia out of, AGWA, the African Growth Opportunities Act. And what that meant was Ethiopia lost 100,000 jobs. In the textile industries, all the textile industries which were set up to export, goods to America collapsed immediately. So that would tell you how important, that Hagwa is, to Africa. But then when you now have, what you are likely going to have with Harris is a continuity in policy. You are likely going to have a bit more stable situation, able to engage with that administration better than Trump. Trump has demonstrated time and time again that he has little, regard for Africa, for some African countries, not all African countries. So even though Trump will still try to engage, given the realities on the ground now, that Africa is becoming, a territory for influence, particularly by the major powers, China, Russia, and United States. Gone are those days when Britain gets into the fray. Those are the three major powers jostling for Africa. So what we are likely going to see is Trump may throw away what you have currently and come up with a new initiative on partnership with Africa. And for me, that will be a setback because there will be other stringent conditions. That does not mean that if Kamala Harris, is managed to get elected, you are still likely going to have an additional condition attached to AGWA. And I think she will do that, which is the climate issue. Right. At a point in time when African countries are saying, look, stop using human rights record, stop using governance issues, as stumbling blocks for us to access the free trade, tariff exports to your country. Yeah. So she's likely going to come up with a new one, which is on the climate issue. So, but notwithstanding that, a Trump presidency is highly unpredictable, and it will throw in a period of uncertainty for Africa.
All right, gentlemen, let's quickly put a pause on our conversation. We'll continue on the U.S. election and its implications for Africa when we return. Please stay with us.
At break time, when my champ needs to keep going, he's going to need his favorite snack, containing calcium, iron, and fiber.
Milo Energy Snacks, snack of future champions. Milo!
All right, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, as we have been talking about the results trickling in from the U.S. in the aftermath of the presidential election, mainly between Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. The results, as it stands now, is reading 246 for the Republican candidate, that's Donald Trump, and 194 for Ms. Harris. But of course, the counting is still on. Swing states are still, perhaps, and as we have always been saying, this swing states also decide who emerges as the president. But while we continue to monitor the results, we have keen observers with us in the House. Mustafa Iwinla and Biodun Showumi are with me in the studio. Oludare Maridoti is also here, but joining virtually from the United States. Let me come to Mustafa Iwinla now. Biodun Showumi here was saying Trump has always been showing little regard for Africa. Is that how you see it, especially if he emerges president?
Okay, so I think I'm going to align my thoughts with the views of Mr. Biodun. A Donald Trump presidency, for me, I think, yes, we've seen what played out from 2020 when he lost the election to Joe Biden. And I think that if you really want to see what actually led to the failure or the defeat of Donald Trump at that time was some reckless policies that he took when he was in presidency. Policies on how he managed the COVID-19 pandemic was a mess. And also some economic policies that almost led the USA to a recession. So for me, I think that a Donald Trump presidency, for me, I think he would have learned his lessons, and I think that we would expect him to do better this time. Because the people of America are saying that, you know what, at 2020, they've had enough of Donald Trump. But again, we've seen that the democracy that's currently in place in America is a very conducive one where everybody can decide who they want. But I think that generally we should accept that if Donald Trump comes in, he must have learned from lessons that made him lose the 2022 elections. Mm-hmm. But again, the implications to African, for me, I think is going to be quite a number of implications. We're going to have the positive implications. We're going to have the negative implications. But on the economy at large, we will see that during one of the policies that American presidents put in place to make sure that they have a stabilized economy is the issue of the SAP program, the structural adjustment programs, where they put in policies to ensure that, you know, the imports and exports agreement is kind of unilateral. But I think that generally we'll expect a positive display of, you know, leadership from a Donald Trump presidency this time around.
All right. Let's come back now to, or let's go back to Dr. Mari Dotti. You're an immigrant in the United States. And first of all, let's look at the possibilities of protests. Some have, you know, speculated there could be violence depending on whichever way the pendulum swings, either the way of Kamala Harris or her rival, Mr. Trump. What are you seeing as regards these projections of violence or violent reactions following the announcement of the winner?
Well, I don't expect there to be violence if Trump wins. Now, if Kamala wins, Trump might incite violence like he did the last time, where, you know, he started an insurrection and tried to overthrow the election that he lost, which is going to say a lot, because definitely, according to the U.S. Constitution, Kamala Harris would have to be the one to confirm the next president. She's the president of the Senate, so, you know, she's going to do it. But, you know, when, like you mentioned, for immigrants, there was something that actually a lot of people probably didn't know about 2016 when Trump came in. It became more difficult to get visa dates for Nigerians applying for U.S. visa for visiting and even student visa. That policy took a while to catch up because there was a lot of backlogs. But right now, it has become a lot easier. Like, you don't have to wait 2 years for you to be able to get a visa interview date. You can get one within a month. I had a friend that just logged in onto the new system, got one within a week. Well, let's see what it does, because it was when they got in that they started causing, I don't know what they did administratively, but that was when those backlogs started. You can remember that he also cancelled Dropbox. It was under his administration. And so, you know, when we talk about the impact of his presidency to Nigeria, I don't see any way it's going to be favorable. We can say this first time he was thinking of a re-election. Right now, he does not have any election to run again. So he will feel at liberty to do and do whatever he wants to do. Trump is a very erratic, like everybody has said, and transactional person. So if he does not see any benefit in Nigeria or in any African nation, I don't see any reason why we want to engage. And that's most likely the reason why he did not engage in any meaningful way manner the last time. And so he campaigned on America first, that he wants to protect the country. His campaign was on protectionism. And it is so and he also said a lot of things about immigrants, that immigrants are poisoning the blood of the country, you know, that immigrants they are trying to dilute the country, that they have a bad gene that makes them prone to crime and all of that. So, you know, that is why there's going to be a lot of anxiety in the world in general. And, you know, if the 12 fans are fighting, sometimes it might affect the grass. If Trump pulls out of NATO and then the war in Russia and Ukraine, we don't know where it is going to go. We don't know, because the UK and the European countries are not going to just shout out to Russia, because that is their own direct neighbor. And Trump is of the opinion that Russia is far away, is going for protectionism. So these are things that can even cause a ripple effect that will affect the African economy, that will prevent, you know, the growth that we are about to see. Because a part of the reason why the American economy is also badly affected was the war in Ukraine and the restrictions and penalties and all that they had to put on Russia. And Trump has always said he loves Putin, he causes up to him. So those are some other international dynamics that will definitely have impact on African nations. So looking to America for any form of guidance during this period might be a mirage. I don't think Trump is interested in what we call, I think he was brought into power by the nationalist movement, and is going to want to do that. Also, when we talk about climate change too, he does not believe in it. Nigeria, African nations did not contribute to the climate disaster, but we are the ones suffering it the most. There's been a lot of droughts, where erosion of the coastline, even in my state, in those states, the desertification of the Lake Chad basin is almost drying up. So these are things that they are trying to, reverse, that will take a long time, that Trump does not believe in. And so when we look at the broad implication of his potential presidency, should he be declared, because it looks like that's the route going to be. It is going to be a very, like I said, anxious period for the world. And it is a lot of, Trump plans on what's called mass deportation of immigrants. Those are the people that pick the fruits and cook the foods and clean the houses and all. So that is also going to have a negative impact on the economy of the United States, which is going to definitely have a trickle effect of the economy all over the world. Okay. So, I guess they've bought what they wanted to buy. So let's see how the next 4 years goes. All
right. So let's come back now to the studio. Mr. Showumi, some analysts have, however, said that no matter how you look at it, there still seems to be some form of new colonialist agenda, even from Kamala Harris, even though she may project a somewhat softer diplomacy approach as against, Trump in your face, protectionist agenda, America first agenda. Bearing that in mind, what do you think Africa needs to do differently if it does eventually happen that Africa would be dealing with a Trump presidency? What would Africa need to do differently this time around?
Yeah, well, it represents opportunities and threats. No doubt about that. He's a very transactional person. I can tell you, for instance, when Trump met with the former president of Kenya, Kenyatta, when he was in power, he simply told the gentleman, after exchanging pleasantries, look, why aren't you buying American goods? You want to enjoy better trade tariff with us? You want more aid? Look, you have to buy American goods. It's just a straightforward person like that. So, except you are willing to do that, he will not do this. And that's Trump for you. So, there's an element of predictability in relation to that. When you now look at other issues which Dr. Marindotti had, subtly hinted at, the issue of Ukraine and Russia, we should not think Trump is against African migrants. No. Trump is not against African migrants. Trump is against migration, uncontrolled migration. That's Trump for you. The reason I suspect driving his desire to resolve, the war between Ukraine and Russia is not just economic. It's also to stop the influx of refugees, into America. So he's still thinking America first before any other country. Now, when you look at the other implication, in a way, resolving that will be beneficial to Africa. Currently, we import about $5 billion worth of grains, from these war-torn countries. So they might eventually come cheaper. Now, when you look at the other side of it, is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Trump is going to take a line that will alienate many African countries, from his own administration. He's going to be hardliner, on it. As far as he's concerned, he will come out heavily in support of Israel. And that will alienate many African countries.
Nigeria supports a two-nation solution.
A two-nation solution. That's a United Nations resolution. I can't even tell you precisely whether it's 246 or 248. That has been the situation since the 60s. So, and that's our own position. Nigeria as a country, stands with that. Most countries in the whole world. America will tell you, well, that's what they're working towards. But at the end of the day, the reality is different. So it will end up alienating many African countries, at least on foreign policy. But in terms of the African people themselves, Trump will come hard and say, look, you want to enjoy the free tariff, on exportation of goods to our country, then you've got to buy our own goods. So what it means is
that he's bringing a 10% import tax, right?
Absolutely.
Which will, of course,
absolutely. He will intend to drive the Chinese and the Russians away, from Africa. That would be his goal.
Okay.
And he will do that through tariffs, hiking the tariffs and offering us free tariff. If you don't buy from them, we will let you buy, we'll reduce the cost and all that.
All right, Mr. Showumi, gentlemen, let's quickly take another break and come back for more on this discussion.
At break time, when my champ needs to keep going, he's going to need his favorite snack, containing calcium, iron, and fiber.
Milo Snacks, snack of future champions. Milo!
Hello, TVC Communications. How can I help?
What makes TVC the right choice for my business?
Excellent question, sir. Let me share some exciting facts with you.
Start your day on TVC Entertainment with Wake Up Nigeria, a family and lifestyle show. Your view empowers women globally.
It's your view, let it count.
Entertainment Splash delivers the hottest celebrity trends. On TVC News, we keep you informed with breaking news and in-depth analysis of events shaping the world.
I will continue to speak the truth.
TVC News at 7 and TVC News at 10 p.m. delivers the most important stories of the day. Max FM, your hit music radio station, captivates listeners daily across Lagos and Abuja, making every commute more enjoyable. Adaba 88.9 FM is not left out, as it is the voice of Southwest, and on TVC together.
Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're still watching TVC Breakfast. Our conversation over the past couple of minutes has been enhancing African relations in the light of the American presidency. Of course, a new light is emerging, so to speak. Americans have had their say. Counting is ongoing. Of course, the pendulum still remaining on the swing states. Some have been announced. There's still some more crucial states where everyone is expectant on who eventually takes the day, even though from the numbers, Donald Trump is leading. Okay, back to our conversation on mutually beneficial relationships between Africa and the U.S. So Africa continues to be the marketplace. It was initially America, having the sole control, but entering China, entering Russia, BRICS is also having more and more interest in Africa, and Africa is also, pandying, so to speak, to that. So where do you see this all leaving Africa? And now that Africa has more options, let's talk to us about your projections, your expectations on how Africa can be better served.
So for me, I think whether we like it or not, a country like America also cannot downplay or overlook the importance of African countries to their own national growth over there too. Because whether we like it or not, the African country also produces a lot of goods and services that are being consumed over there in the United States of America, and because of the kind of natural resources that we are blessed with in Africa. So, but I think that it is very important that we say that we must continue to foster a good relationship between the African countries and the American country. Currently, right now, our current inflation rate, let's narrow it down to Nigeria, is 32.70%. So I think that if a Donald Trump presidency is coming into play, I think we should start getting the results by the end of today or tomorrow and all that. But I think that if Donald Trump is really wanting to foster a good relationship with Africa, he should come up with policies that will ensure that the economy is being stabilized. Like I said, Donald Trump is a businessman. And whatever he's trying to do, he's trying to make sure that he gets the best bargain for his people first, before any other person. And that's what every leader should do, if you know what I mean. But I think that, we've seen during the time of Bill Clinton, he visited Nigeria, quite a number of times during the time of Obasanjo. And there were a lot of, discussions that led to national prosperity of even as Americans and Nigerians. That got us to where we are today. So I think that we should just, I'm optimistic, even as I know that Donald Trump is very, very recalcitrant. A lot of times he takes his decision and he does not care what the external reactions will be. But I think that he's a businessman and he wants the good for Americans. So we must understand that he's a businessman and he wants the good for Americans. So let's just be hopeful and be very optimistic that we will see a very good relationship business-wise with Americans and Africans generally.
Right. And Dr. Maridoti, so let's come now to the issue of human rights, especially when you look at the relationship between when a democratic president in the U.S. is engaging with Africa, with Nigeria, as against when a Republican president is engaging with Nigeria. The perception is, okay, when it comes to human rights, when it comes to aid, it's usually with conditions. And that would be what Africa would get if Kamala Harris were to be elected president. But if it's going to be a Trump presidency, the reverse would be the case, because it's going to be business-like, as you all have stressed. What are your thoughts in this regard in terms of enhancing human rights back here in Nigeria and Africa? And of course, while eliciting aid from the American nation.
Well, Trump does not look like someone who is interested in human rights or any rights for that matter. He does not believe that, even Ukraine has the right to its own sovereignty. He talks about America being ruled by fools, that they rip us off, we give out all our money. So, if he believes that America should not be giving out money, so if Africa wants to ask for aid, I don't think he's going to be much open to it. He will say, judging from what he has said on his campaign trail, and it looks like he's going to win right now. So I don't really have any form of optimism now. He can get to power and then change. Nobody knows. He might feel like maybe he was just being divisive to get to power, and now that he has gotten the power, that he does not feel the need to, play to his base. We don't know. He plans to be, to weaponize, to go after his political opponents. Those are the things that he wants to do in the country. So when I look at his agenda, while Africa never really featured at all during the campaign, I don't see Donald Trump as that kind of person that will want to give aids to Africa or support any of the initiatives that they've had, be it in fighting of HIV or communicable diseases and all. He does not even believe in vaccination, because the person that he has touted that he wanted to put in charge of some of the health agencies is someone that is anti-vax, and America is supporting vaccine initiatives in America. So if we have someone that may want to end vaccine in America, even for their own citizens, would they be supporting that kind of a program worldwide? It is definitely going to be a lot of uncertainties that the world has been plunged into by this election. I don't expect him to really fight for human rights. Now, the other human rights that we might want to talk about is when we talk about maybe LGBTQ rights that Nigerians don't like. He would also not talk about that, because he does not even care about it. He does not even believe in it in this country. That was part of what he used to campaign, the fact that the Democrats were for LGBTQ rights. So those are things that, maybe Nigerians might like the fact that it will not be for LGBTQ rights, but when it comes to human rights in general, I don't expect him to be with it. I expect him to try to form alliances with China and Russia, and he's someone who is also quite erratic. So when we talk about what's it called, wars, he might literally start a war. He might start a trade war that will affect Nigeria and affect a lot of African countries. Like we've said, if what Dad said on the studio, if that all those like free trade, tariff-free imports that we had, he might say yes, we should come and buy American cars. Otherwise, he's going to put tariff on all our imports. Guess what? We don't have the money to buy American cars. So I don't see Trump being a transactional person. I don't see what he will benefit from us as Africans. So I don't know how his administration is going to be in any way, shape, or form beneficial to us. I mean, we're going to get some funds from the climate accord that they have to, help our country, help African countries cope with the effect of climate change. Trump does not believe in climate change. He believes it is foolish people giving American monies away. So that is something that is going to affect the whole of Africa, because the world came with that Paris Climate Accord to help Africa, who did not really generate a lot of the greenhouse gas, to cope with the debilitating effect of the green gas. That's why they are putting all those funds away. And Trump does not believe in it. He pulled out of the Paris Accord during his first term. Then Biden joined it again. So those are things that are going to be really, really challenging. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of anxiety for people of the world. I believe Americans voted their sentiments. I believe they voted their, maybe pocketbooks too. And yes, we'll just have to watch what he does, really. We just have to watch what he does. Nobody can predict it.
All right. Well, back to the studio, Mr. Showme, in terms of course, we're still dealing with the issues of insecurity, the war against terrorism and the like. America has always been a crucial partner, in that wise. Also, in the talk of human rights, there's always been this issue of conditions. America will give you aid, but with conditions and all of that. What are your expectations now moving forward with the Trump presidency in terms of more support for human rights, in terms of more support, especially for the fight against insurgency?
Well, I don't see Donald Trump as a human rights campaigner or an activist or somebody who would lead a campaign. Look, Trump will exploit human rights for his own purposes with a view to negotiate for trade advantages. He will impose sanctions on the basis of human rights violation, but that's not his goal. His goal is to trade. Look, just open up your economy, to America, then that is gone. He won't think about your human rights record. It's a man who likes very tough, powerful, if not even dictators. He's drawn to them one way or the other, given his own personal construct psychology. So Trump will only trade with human rights as a condition. He's likely going to go fracking. The whole of Alaska, he would unleash it and allow exploration of oil. So he's not concerned about climate change, like Dr. Mani Dottie said. And not only that, one good thing is Trump is likely going to be a little bit of stability to the world, because you are not likely going to see a Trump waging a war in any other part of the world. He's too business-minded, thinking about the cost of waging a war than to actually wage the war, to promote foreign policy objectives. He's not inclined to do that. And you are likely going to see the acceleration of the global plate, from unipolar world, to multipolar world. The Russia and China has been pursuing the issue of multilateralism, and America has been enjoying the dominance, for a long time, and that is being currently challenged. You have the issue of BRICS, which would also bring in new opportunities for America to go back and look at IMF and say, look, do we really need to redesign IMF so that it works for African countries? Because BRICS, currently with the new development bank of the BRICS, they're actually trying to tailor it to the needs of countries, not a general template like IMF template. So it may present another opportunity, for IMF to go back and look at their template and then make it more relative to the needs, of each country, rather than a general template which they are using, one prescription for all ailments in all countries. So there'll be some positive side, but a lot of people will be anxious. The issue of migration, I don't really see, in a way, if you actually look at it, it will slow down migration, but nobody has succeeded in stopping migration. In some sense, it may not necessarily be bad for us. For instance, if you go to our rural areas, there are only nurses in the hospitals. In the rural areas, we don't have the doctors. So it may slow down in a way that some of our highly skilled manpower can engage with the economy before migrating. Nobody has ever succeeded in stopping migration, as long as labor migration, as long as capital can also move. So it remains to be seen how it will turn out. But I think one country that may suffer in the initial time within a period of 3 to 6 months is Kenya.
Why so?
William Ruto, the current president of Kenya, actually signed a new partnership deal with President Biden of America. That already alienated some African countries in East Africa. And it's a Trump presidency coming in. I think it's just going to chuck it in the bin. He's not going to respect that. And They did that. Kenya went through a very turbulent, difficult economic times, with a view to rescue Kenya. I think it's just going to toss it into the bin.
Right.
For him, America's money should be for America, not to bail out any country.
All right. And you personally, do you think Nigeria will be better off?
Well, I think I'm quite optimistic. Nigeria is going to be a better off country with partnership and, agreement that will help first with America and Nigeria. But again, what I think it might be a problem is, most of the policies that the Joe Biden administration, signed into might be like Mr. Biodo said, right. It might be. So Trump might say, I'm trying to overhaul this policy. Is it going to be economically beneficial to my country or not? But generally, I think again, Trump, he must have learned all his lessons from the last 4 years. I mean, in the last 4 years, because for a sitting president to lose the power of incumbency and come back again, and the people are saying, you know what, let's give you a second chance. Let's forget that it's not Trump that is getting himself there. It's the American people that is voting him this time to say, you know what, let's give you a second chance. Let's see if he can get it right. So I think he will do something quite spectacular this time around.
Right. We've run out of time, but Dr. Mari Dotty, so you've seen both worlds now, or you're seeing both worlds now. Looking at the elections over there in America, and what we can glean, or what lessons we as Nigerians, or the Nigerian nation, the entity that is, should learn from the elections in America. What stands out for you?
Well, I always say that you can't conduct a process in an environment and remove that process from the realities of that environment. If you were watching, I'm sure you ran a lot of clips of people voting in America. You could see the infrastructure, the places they were voting. We don't have that in Nigeria. So we can't, the machines, the internet access, all those things, we don't have all that. We don't have that. We are not that rich, right? But one thing that I think we can actually benefit from, if we can do, is to associate every vote to the voter. In Nigeria right now, we do have accreditation and then we go and let people vote. But there are no real ways to associate the vote to the voter. But in the United States, they can trace every vote down to the person that cast the vote, which is part of the reason why their elections are so secure. So anybody who is not supposed to vote cannot vote. So that is one thing that I feel like will definitely help us in terms of the security of our environment, of our election, because we don't have what they have. Also, we have this system. I don't think Nigeria is right to do pre-election voting, but I think the system and the flow of our election too, whereby we first accredit people, then we tell them to go and wait, and then we start giving out ballot paper later. That one, if they can change it, accredit someone, let them go and vote, and let them go, so that you can have a smooth flow of people through the polling units, and then more people can cast their votes, as opposed to getting accredited very early in the morning and then waiting 4 hours before they now start queuing to vote. So those are two things that I feel like we might have the resources and the wherewithal to do, but we definitely can't compare with the American system.
All right, and let's compare notes now with what you have said in terms of Nigeria's work to enhance, elections in the country, of course. What is your major takeaway, Mr. Shoun?
Well, it's not totally hunky-dory in America. I can give you a good example. In California, there is nothing called voter's card. There is no accreditation. You get the post, the ballot, and then no matter who lives there, you fill it and then return it. So it's a mixed bag when it comes to evaluating democracy in America. In Nigeria, I think we're even still a bit better off.
How?
We're a bit better off in the sense that we have improving the system. We've been refining it up to a point. Look, the nature of democracy is you have two competing parties. So you'll always have one for and one against. So no matter what you say. But the fact is we have refined the system in a way that is better than many American states, in my view. What we need to work on is the length of time that it takes for people to vote. And I think if you look at the last election, I don't think anybody spent 3 hours at a polling unit before voting. So we have to keep improving on it one way or the other. There are bottlenecks, there are challenges,
yes.
Just like in any other country. The nature of the challenges are different. But what we need to do is to keep working on our own challenges and improve on our system.
And talking about our own challenges, what is the major issue with Nigeria's election, and how do you think, looking at the electoral process in America, we can maybe tweak it to work better?
Okay, so I think I slightly want to disagree with Mr. Biodun for a while on this. So the honest truth is we've seen that American elections, they've constantly showed us that this is how democracy should be done. This is how elections should be done. But
though they also have their flaws.
They have their flaws, but if you look at it side by side with what we have in Nigeria, is quite different. What we have in Nigeria is totally different from what's going on in America. So the kind of elections we have, look at what this man said yesterday, Mahmoud Yakubu, the INEC chairman. So if you look at what happened during our Edo elections, they had logistic issues, they had result management issue, and they have, even INEC accepted that they had a lot of mistakes from that election. And they are saying that, going to Edo elections, come 16th of this month, they are going to improve better and do things differently. So I think that we should look at countries like America. They've showed us that they are truly leaders of the world. Elections are done free and fair, credibly, free of violence, free of ballot box snatching and all that. But in Nigeria, we've seen that a lot of times, a lot of these things happen. And I think we must stop. And I think, for that to stop, we must start from ensuring that, elections, I saw a queue of people going to queue now. No police on queue. People are just walking to corner shops, doing their votes and going back home peacefully.
I think we should
get to that. We should get to that level too.
All right, gentlemen, a big thank you to you all. Mustafa Iwenla, Biodun Showomi, we thank you very much. And Oludare Maridoti, Dr. Maridoti there, who joined us from the United States. We thank you all very much for your contributions on the program, TVC Breakfast. And that's our 7 on the program today. We thank you all very much for keeping us company. Of course, you can join us again tomorrow for another exciting ride. We'll continue to monitor the fallout of the election in the United States. Many thanks for watching.